Okay, hi everybody. Let me show you how the assignment for lab regarding choosing and submitting hypotheses based on your choice of research project is going to work. First, you want to look at the study options. You can see that under the week 1 module. So go ahead and open that. I'm going to guide you through some of the examples. So the main thing I want to point out is that you have 1, 2, 3 options for this class. 3 research study options. So keep that in mind. You have 3 main choices, but they're flexible, and I might be open to modifications depending on your interest. Now keep in mind, because we're collecting data as a class, right? We're going to collect one data set for the class to use. You have to let me know early if you're hoping to add IVs to the study so we could add it to the survey we'll be using as a class. So just keep that in mind. If you have an interest not listed here, reach out to me immediately and I'll let you know if we can use it. So one thing to keep in mind though, there are some limitations regarding what we can do just because this is not going to be a study that takes place in a lab setting, but a study where you're going to recruit participants to complete surveys. So each study has 2 independent variables and 1 dependent variable. Here's a short description for this option, right? So it says growth mindset and math performance. So we're looking at how this psychological construct is related to math performance. And you can read a little bit about what growth mindset is here, right? So you have a short description per study in the description. And if you look at the independent variable, which I'm going to call IV from now on, a dependent variable, you can get a better idea of what exactly you're going to be looking at. So the independent variable, one of them at least, is mindset. And for this one specifically, we're going to have some participants that get a growth mindset prompt. So just to give you a short synopsis of what growth mindset is. Growth mindset is an approach to learning where individuals see learning as something they can strengthen over time, like a muscle, right? The more I practice, the better I get. Fixed mindset, so some participants would get a fixed mindset prompt. The fixed mindset individuals tend to see a skill or learning as fixed. I'm just not good at math. I'm not good at technology. If you've used those kind of statements, those are fixed mindset statements. It's gonna be hard for you to get better at these skills if you see it as something innate that you can't change with practice. So participants would get one of these statements, or will get one of these statements, and then we have the DV, which is a math test, essentially. Our second IV is gender, right? So you're going to have mindset and gender, and seeing how reading statements relating to fixed or growth mindset might impact male and female participants in terms of their math performance. So here you have 2 IVs, and again, you can modify these. But if you want to modify them, you have to let me know ahead of time. So, for example, let's say, well, I'm not as interested in this conceptualization of gender, which would be more in line with sex. If you look at the very bottom, I have a list of all the independent variables and all the dependent variables we're going to be asking for. So I should actually change that, but as you can see here, I do ask for sex, and that's going to be in terms of male, female. I do ask for gender, so you also have gender status. So if you wanted to compare students who identified as cis males, or let's do broader, as cis, meaning they identify with their gender identity is in line with the sex they were assigned at birth, right? With at least with what society expects. That would be cis, and that could be one group, and you could have people who identify as LGBTQ or non-cis, right? I'm open to that, but you do have to let me know ahead of time. This is not going to be a group project, so you have to let me know so we can make those modifications, so we can make sure that questions are framed in a way where we would capture your interest. Now, there might be some interest we can't capture. We're kind of just limited in that way just because we have only 6 weeks to work on this, so keep that in mind. In this study, we would be focusing on study number 2. We would focus on how gender, ethnicity, and ethnicity relate to harassment in social media settings, right? So looking at that and seeing how ethnicity, keep in mind I have these statements here, level 1, level 2, meaning your IVs have 2 categories. One level is black, one level is Armenian. Now here you could change that. We would be limited to who we end up recruiting in the study, but if you're interested in Armenian participants, we should leave that option open. And here you can see I have another option for how you could have gender in your study. So the third option is looking at cultural differences in home responsibilities, and this one actually has 3 DV options. So notice for the IVs, we have ethnicities, and you could change these, right? If you're interested in Latinx compared to Asian, Armenian compared to white, as in this example, that's fine. Here we have gender in terms of male and female, and we have 3 options for dependent variables. We're going to be asking for all 3 of these. I have 3 scales we're going to be using to capture participants' current assistance towards family. How much are they helping at home? Respect for family, and value of supporting family in the future. You're going to choose one of these. These are 3 different DVs, right? So you can see how you can mix and match these within studies to analyze different questions that are hopefully within some domain of your interest. Again, if you want to change this, look through all of these and see if you can find variables that match up with your interests. Okay, so now let's go to the assignment. So you would go to home. Actually, let me go to student view so you can see how it would look, how it's going to look for you. So you should only have these areas, right? So again, everything's due on Monday, on the same day. So the first lab activity is choosing a research question. You click on that, and you'll have the instructions for what I'm looking for, what you need to submit. You have 3 options for studies. I want you to tell me first which of those are you going to do. I want you to frame that into a question. So, for example, using number 1, you might say, how does mindset, gender, and how does mindset and gender relate to math performance? So you can see it takes some time to think of it, but it's not that complicated. How does IV1 and IV2 relate to the DV? That's a general structure you can use. That's for number 2. And then you're going to state your main effect hypotheses. There's going to be 2. Kind of say that in a weird way. Hypotheses. So you're going to have 2 hypotheses for the main effects, so keep that in mind. 2. 1 for each IV, right? So keep that in mind. You're going to have 1 hypothesis for each IV. Make sure you review my explanation of the main effect and interaction hypotheses so you can better understand what that looks like. But essentially, for each IV, you're making a prediction. So let's say you were comparing Armenian to Latino participants. That was your ethnicity IV. Do you expect Armenian or Latinx participants to be higher on current assistance at home? I'm only focusing on one IV, ethnicity, and I'm making a prediction on which one do I expect to be higher, or how do I expect them to be different, in other words. And then So you would do one for each for each IV. That's 3 and 4. And then for the last step, I want you to write out a statement hypothesizing how both IVs relate to your DV. Here I have one example. We expect that Black women will report the highest rates of harassment of all participants, right? Taking ethnicity and gender into account in that hypothesis. So then you would submit that, and I'll give you feedback on what you submitted. If you have any questions, please let me know.